Today we're going to take a look back at the gardens from 2024 and see what worked and what didn't. Hi, I'm Heidi from Garden Crossings, and today I'm here with Ben, one of our growers, and we've been spending the last few hours or so just going over all of the various garden projects that we had going on in the gardens this year, taking a look at the things that worked, the things that didn't, and what we need to change for next year. So Ben, actually, before we get started though, why don't you go ahead and tell people kind of what you do here at Garden Crossings?
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Introduce yourself a little bit.
So my name's Ben. I've been working here for, I think it's 5 years now, and I'm one of the growers here at Garden Crossings. So I, in the springtime, grow all the plants that are either purchased in the garden center or shipped out across the country. So that's like my main job here, but I help out with anything where I'm needed. I help hanging baskets in the springtime, help unload trucks, and then another thing I get to help do is plan out the show gardens with Heidi and Rod, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah. So you have a little bit of experience in landscaping before you come to work for us.
I do. I worked up on Mackinac Island and down in Florida for Jack Barnwell. So I was really familiar with the Proven Winners brand and all the beautiful annuals and everything working with him.
Yeah, so that was a good experience for you.
Yes, definitely. And I hope to bring some of that experience here with helping out with the show gardens here.
And so far, I mean, we've been doing this for 3 or 4. I'm probably not the very first year.
Yeah, not the first year,
at least 3 years.
Yeah,
we've been kind of thinking these things through. So we're going to kind of walk you step by step through the different garden spaces. We'll be putting up pictures of the area so that you have a better visualization of what we're talking about. So we're going to start right off front and center with the parking lot gardens, the ones right as you come up to Garden Crossings and step into the garden center. So those did pretty good this year.
Yes, those did really good. It's like that old saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it. That's what we're doing with the front of the garden center this year.
So we have a list of all the plants so we can kind of talk about them. So we did the Supertunia Vista Jazzberry, the Macedonia Gold Dust, along with the Salvia Unplugged So Blue, and then we had the yellow cannas. Now I know 2 years ago we did we do like the Rockin' Playin' the Blues?
We did the one that gets really big.
Really big. And so we knew last year that was too big. We needed to dial it down.
It looked really good in the summer, but near the end of the season, it was starting to get tired. A lot of the branching on it cracked and they kind of collapsed in on themselves. So we decided last year to go with the smaller unplugged series of the Salvia.
And I was really happy with how that turned
the more
out.
compact version of it did really well in the front.
Yes, so that definitely, I think, knocked it out of the park. And I mean, I can't think of anything better to change it with. So we'll keep that the same because it was fabulous. And then as you're pulling into our parking lot, we've got our islands, and in those islands we have Bobo hydrangea. I think they've been in there for about 8-10 years or so. Whenever Bobo was first introduced is when they were planted out there. And that's because it was a nice compact panicle hydrangea, which up until that point, most of them would get 6 or 8 foot tall. And when Bobo was introduced at only 3 to 4 foot tall, that was like the perfect size that we needed for those islands. So in the islands, this past year, we had, Supertunia Vista Hot Pink, Mini Vista Hot
Pink, and then in the middle we had the Verbena Meteor Shower.
Yeah, and the Meteor Showers, it did fabulous, attracted the butterflies, but we've done that for a couple years.
I think we've done that for 3 years now.
So we're going to shake that up this year.
Yeah, and we're going to use a new one. It's a ping pong purple, and what kind of plant is that?
It's a
Gomphrena.
Yes. So
this
it's
one
give whimsy kind of feel.
And it's a newer plant. I haven't heard of this plant until this morning. So Heidi showed me a bunch of pictures of it online, and we think it's going to do really good there. Have a different look. Kind of change it up a little bit.
Give it the similar feel, but just a different plant.
Yeah.
In the trials it looked amazing. So now we are going to stick with the hot pink Supertunias, the Mini Vistas, because there's not another Mini Vista color that just feels right for that location, I don't think.
Right, agreed.
And
we wanted to keep the petunia there because petunias do really well in this island, and we don't use a whole lot of petunias in our landscape anymore. So that was a good spot to keep a petunia.
Right. And we're going to talk a little bit as we're going through the gardens to see and tell you why we don't use as many super petunias as we used to. And I think they're very valid reasons, and I think it's going to be helpful for you too, maybe with some of your own gardens, to know the reason behind the why. So we'll be getting to that in just a little bit. All right, next we have the row of arborvitaes that we planted. Did you do that last summer?
2 summers ago.
2 summers ago. Oh yeah, 2023. And we did that to kind of block. There's a pump house there to kind of create a block, and it's done a really good job. We did a whole bunch of different hydrangeas in front, like the 4 to 5 foot varieties.
Yeah, yep.
It's like pufferfish, little quickfire.
Yeah, the lime time.
Limelight Prime.
I think so. Or one of those is in there.
Little Lime Punch.
Little Lime Punch. That's it. Little Lime Punch.
Yeah, because we didn't want them to get much taller than 4 foot. But in front of those, we wanted to have just a little bit of something to give kind of a consistent splash of color, because obviously the hydrangeas bloom midsummer. So before that, there's not a lot going on. So this year we had the
lemon coral sedum this year. One of the reasons we used it was because we had a lot of it left over, so we figured that was a great spot, and we needed more of a drought tolerant plant over there. We do have some drip irrigation by the North Poles, but it doesn't get a whole lot of water there, so that was one of the reasons we used it.
And it did fabulous.
It did very well.
It looked fine. It didn't have a lot of color. I mean, that yellow color,
it's
is
cool,
what it is, looks nice, but we wanted to splash it up a little bit and add a little bit more color. So yeah, we're gonna do lantana there. So we had to still do a drought tolerant variety, which lantana, once it's established, is fairly drought tolerant. And I have a note on here that we're doing a zigzag pattern, and I don't know that it's necessarily the lantana zigzag.
It's going to go in between each of the hydrangeas.
That's
is what we're going to do.
That's right.
And then last year when we did it, we had just a solid row of the lemon coral, which looked really cool. But this year we're going to do, they're going to kind of be more 3-4 feet apart, so it's just going to be a nice, more specimen plant.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So you can see each lantana individually, and
I
think it'll be good.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then we're heading over to the next garden, kind of as we're walking through, and that would be our south end. It's a white picket fence garden, and that white picket fence was put in 2023. We just kind of threw some annuals in there that year that were left over just to fill in the bed. But this year we had a thaw in place, and the thaw was decent, but we definitely learned something from that bed.
So we did, this past season, salvia playing the blues, and then we did pockets of the tropical rose sun patient, and then pockets of the supertunia bubblegum, which the color scheme looked really great.
Right, and it was like blocky, so it was like a chunk of pink, a chunk of purple, chunk of hot pink, like that looked cool.
Yeah, and it looked great when we first planted it, but as the season went on, there are some low spots out there.
Yes.
And the low spots happened to be more where the supertunias were, and they couldn't handle it as well as the sun patients or the salvia. They were just getting too wet, the roots were just staying too wet. And it was just depleting all the nutrients out of the supertunias as well. So we lost some big chunks of them.
Yeah. So I mean, as we were losing them, we kind of pulled them out. We put more, I think, supertunias back in.
We did.
But they didn't.
Same kind of thing happened.
So we learned for next year not to fight the battle.
Exactly.
Let's work with it.
Yeah. So since the sun patients worked so good, we scrap the petunia idea over there, and we're just going to go with the pockets of sun patients again, and we're keeping the salvia playing the blues since that did so good.
Yeah, it did.
We are going to change up the color though, and we're doing a newer sun patient, lavender splash, and then we're going to also mix it with rose glow.
Yeah, that will be pretty.
Yeah, and we're going to do solid pockets of it, so it's going to be like a solid pocket of rose glow, solid pocket of the lavender splash, but I think it's going to be a cool color contrast looking down the fence line.
And we know that sun patients love water. I mean, if they don't get water, they kind of can get wilted. So, I mean, it should be a perfect scenario for what we're looking to do. So, excited to see how that will turn out. And I think it'll be good.
I do too.
So, all right. So then the next little bed is what we'll call our birch bed. And there's kind of a lot going on in that birch bed. We've got several really, we're going to say there's 4 sides to it, even though it's kind of like a kidney bean shape or so. But the first side we're going to talk about is the south side, the back side, which is right up against that white picket fence, essentially. And
we had the same issue there. We did the bubblegum Supertunia, and same thing. We started to lose them throughout the season. It was just too wet of an area. We couldn't fertilize there enough. We just ran out of time, and and even with fertilizer, I mean, we were fertilizing every other to 2 weeks, and that's still, the plants were just not getting the nutrients they needed.
No, so we're gonna get rid of the bubble gum on the back side, and I think we're gonna do white sun patience.
Yep.
So I do a lot of white sun patience at the house because I love how white just kind of glows in the dark, especially at night. And we had some white poked in that bed this year, and they look nice. So we thought, let's just do kind of a solid border and just see how that does. So then as we head to the west side of that bed, which is kind of a shorter side, there's some beautiful firelight tidbit hydrangeas in there that do really good later on in the season. But we did have some petunias in that area as well.
We had the saffron finch and then the jazzberry.
That was a great color combination.
It was. The colors played really good off each other. They did really well there. So we're going to keep that same color combo there this year.
Yeah, I think that was a situation of, again, color mixture. If it's not broke, why fix it? Like, we didn't really have a better solution.
Right.
And we know that that looked nice. So, and that was a place, because it was higher ground, that the Supertunias did okay. So we're utilizing our high ground for our Supertunias. Then as we make our way to the north side of that bed, just immediately as we make our way, it's still a little bit higher ground. So we're going to put some more Supertunias there.
Yes, we did the bubblegum Supertunia on that front spot last year, and they did really well there. So that's why we're keeping the Supertunias. This year we're doing a pocket of Tierra Pink. It's a newer one. We trialed it in our trial garden that we have by the butterfly house last summer, and they did great all year. Yeah, really good color, really good habit on them. So
so we wanted to work them out of our trial beds and out into the actual landscape, which that's one thing I do like about the trial beds, is it lets us know what they do, so that if we want to go crazy and go mass
do big
planting,
numbers of them,
we know what they're going to do. So I'm excited for that Tierra Pink. And then making our way a little bit more, we've got that nice brick kind of retaining wall there. And we had the lemon curl sedum there this year. And what did we were going back and forth on that, weren't we? We were talking about sweet potato vine, but with the sweet potato vine, it's cold sensitive.
It is. And we always plant this bed early in the season, so we didn't really want it to get hit by a late frost, or early frost, or late frost. It'd be a late frost, I guess.
So,
the frost. And we did try the sweet potato vines the first year of that bed, which probably would have been 4 years ago now.
I think so.
And it just didn't really, we were planning on it trailing down the rock wall, and in our head it looked like a good vision, but it just never really did what we quite wanted it to do.
Right. And I think Japanese beetles too.
Yes,
could be an
that's
issue.
another issue. So we decided, now let's not fight a battle that.
Yeah. Well, and because we got rid of that lemon curl sedum away from like where the hydrangeas and arborvitaes were, it was a good place to at least keep it, because it is a great plant.
Oh, it's a great plant. Definitely.
And then we have the Proven Winners signature garden sign in that bed. And it always feels like, when I'm taking pictures and such, there's just nothing that's making that sign pop. This year we put some bubble gum around it, and it just, we either didn't have enough or they weren't tall enough.
I feel like it just wasn't tall enough. They looked good, but they just, the habit, with the bubble gum, it just spreads, and I feel like we needed something a little more height to it.
Yeah, so we're going to put some sun patience there as well, because they're going to have that nice upright, a little bit more mounding type habit. So hopefully that gives us that bigger splash of color that really draws the attention in to the signature garden sign. I mean, they're all signature gardens, but that's the one with the sign, so you really want that one to pop and
it's a
stand
good,
out.
like you said, a good spot for pictures and all that too.
Exactly. And then speaking of the sign, and not the signature garden sign, but this is actually the garden crossing sign that's right at the road. And this is as you're pulling into our driveway. The sign has information, sales, events, that kind of thing going on. and pretty predominant
Yeah,
when
I
you
feel,
pull it as
yeah,
well.
definitely.
So we've done a lot of just shaking that one up year after year after year, just playing with different plants to see what works, what we like the look of, even different designs, like bordering it differently and stuff. So we're going to change that up a little bit this year. I mean, in our head right now, we're changing this up. This could all of this could go to the wayside because we do have one person that's opinion will trump ours, but usually he's pretty on board. Rod's pretty on board with what we choose. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. So for the sign this year, we had in there
the compact purple sun patient, and then we had a border of the lemon coral sedum all the way around the sign.
That's right.
And then we had 4 pockets of the ultramarine supertunia.
Oh yeah.
Which the colors looked really good.
They did.
But the ultramarine just kind of faded out over the course of the summer. We lost some plants in there.
Again, too wet, maybe. I mean, that's my best guess.
Yeah, and we had to keep it on the wetter side for all the sun
patients
because they love the water.
So we did pull the ultramarine out at some point, and we replaced it with. Was it the Lobularia?
It was. Okay. We did the White Knight.
White Knight, yeah.
Yes.
So that looked nice.
And
those did okay in that area. So we kind of changed it up. But we thought, let's eliminate the supertunias.
Yeah, and then we were looking back at some old pictures from previous year, and we saw one design that we had forgotten about, which was pretty cool. So we're going to stick with the sun patients again. And what color are we doing? We're doing a purple candy this year.
So it's more of a bi-color than the purple.
Which I think will be really cool. We're still going to border it with the lemon coral sedum because that's a very good look.
It just frames it in, I think.
It does.
Yeah.
But then where we had the 4 pockets, we're just going to do one row of white sun patients right in front to kind of really make those purples pop. I think they're all going to play off each other, like you said, draw the colors out.
Yeah.
So
excited. Yeah, that'll look cool. Excited to see how that will turn out. And then we're heading across the front driveway to our waterfall garden, which that's a big planting space. There's a lot going on there. 2 years ago, when we planted that up, we had a lot of different varieties of annuals, and there wasn't a whole lot of, besides the sun patients, but there wasn't a whole lot of rhyme or reason to where they went. So it felt a little messy.
Yeah, things got lost in there.
Just didn't feel tied in good. So this year we cut back a little bit on the amount of varieties and were more purposeful with where we planted them.
Right, we kind of cleaned it up this year. I really like how it turned out. When you're driving into the driveway of the garden center, there's 3 tiers on the waterfall bed. So we did pockets right in the middle of each tier, and then bordered that all with sun patients, which really made it look like a cleaner look to it than the year before.
Because some of the plants we used this year were the cordial cherry begonia, surefire white,
lime thyme coleus, and then the torchlight coleus.
And then we had some argyratum in there that kind of got lost.
They looked cool in the beginning, but they just got buried by the summertime.
Right.
Everything kind of took over, but
they worked, but
yeah,
why plant something if it's going to totally get lost?
Exactly.
So this year, and one thing too, between the 2 falls of the waterfall, that's a tricky planting area, because if that water gets off course and hits the center there, it's really wet. And at other times it can be really dry. So it's kind of hit and miss what's it going to be. So this year we did the sun patients in the middle, and then we lined it. What did we line it with?
Diamond Frost.
Diamond Frost euphorbia. That worked.
It did really good. We didn't lose a single plant in there from being too wet, too dry. So we're definitely going to stick with that again.
Yeah, that was a good look. So this year we mixed it up just a little bit, kept some of the same type of plants, but maybe switched up the varieties.
Yeah.
So the coleus, we're still doing the lime thyme because that's a nice bright chartreuse green. So this year we decided to do the apple brandy coleus.
That's going to be a fun one, I think. We haven't used it yet out in our landscape, and we wanted to have like a darker color coleus with that lime thyme, the bright green of it. So it's going to still give that darker color like the torchlight did, but a different design on the leaf, which I think is going to be
more variation.
Yes.
And then we're still going with a cordial cherry because that's got that nice dark black glossy foliage with the beautiful bright red blooms. And then also the Surefire
Yeah.
white begonias. I mean, that worked good. It was just a nice splash of white. Now, we're going to add in some of those Selenia apricot begonias.
We are. We're
those
gonna
did really good at my house.
Yes.
And I don't know, we just want to add a little peachy orange in.
Exactly. I think the color is going to be really cool. So we're going to swap out the ageratum and try these. If they end up getting lost again, well, then we know. But we think they'll compete a little bit better with all the other plants around. And yeah, I'm excited for the apricot color.
And it should be just a little bit brighter, so perhaps just pop and make a better impact.
Definitely.
So at the top of the waterfall, we have the Suncredible yellow sunflowers, and they always do fantastic.
Definitely.
But we got a new variety this year, and when I was showing you pictures, we both decided it might be nice to kind of just
change it up a little bit. Yeah, that's a cool looking
so
sunflower.
The new ones actually are Sunfinity yellow sunflowers, and now I'm thinking, did I call the Suncredible Sunfinity earlier?
I don't think you did.
Okay,
I think
so
you called
Suncredible is the proven winner, and Sunfinity is a different variety that we're going to be carrying.
Yeah.
And what we liked about those, they had nice big flower heads, double centers, so just, I don't know, a different look. I think they're going to perform the same, but just to give it a different, fun, fresh look.
Definitely.
So that will be nice. And then, of course, you know, for those of you who've been here before, you know that we're on a very busy road. The cars that are going past, they are flying past. So 55 mile an hour is kind of the...
it's on the low end.
On the low end, for sure, yes. So we have our garden called the 55 mile an hour garden. So with the 55 mile an hour garden, it has to be a spot that really has big impact.
Yeah, you gotta have some pop of color there.
So when these cars are flying past, we need to make sure their heads are turning. And I mean, if they're not, they're people gotta be blind. There's so much color going on up front there. But past few years, we've done a mixture of the Super Trinity Vistas. So we mixed, I think, like bubblegum and silverberry and paradise together, all three of them, with the lemon coral sedum. And it looked nice.
It did.
And I think the petunias did okay up there. But we just, I don't know, we wanted to keep it simpler, more blocking, more. So this year we did the Super Tunia Vista Jazzberry with the Macedonia Gold Dust.
And it kind of tied in the very front of the property to the front of the garden center, which we liked. And those plants did really good up there. They were a showstopper. They really, the color popped. So we're like, let's just do the same thing up there again. And
I know when we showed Rod what we were thinking for that area, he was a little hesitant.
He was.
Because the lemon coral sedum has always done so well, and just not knowing, what would that gold dust do out in the landscape opposed to right by the parking lot. He was a little bit not sure of our choice, but he did agree to it.
He did. We told him, trust us. Let's just try it. And it worked great.
It looked beautiful. So I'm glad that we did that.
Yes.
And again, I think that's the spot we decided, if it's not broke, why fix it?
Exactly.
Because we loved how it turned out. Loved how it tied into the front of the garden center.
Definitely.
So it was.
And my favorite annual right now is the Jazzberry. I love it. I feel like it's becoming even more popular year after year. I know Rod keeps bumping his numbers up on them, so it's like, why not feature that plant in a few areas here?
Right. Well, and I think in 2023, Rod had really bumped the Jazzberry numbers up, saying, Jazzberry is going to overtake bubblegum, and it didn't. He was a little early with his prediction. So this past year, 2024, he cut his Jazzberry numbers back a little bit because we were sitting with so many. So he's like, all right, maybe it's not quite the year yet. But we did sell out of Jazzberry really early. So had we had the inventory, I don't know. I think it could have been really close to bubblegum sales, which bubblegum is the top selling plant. So 2025, I haven't heard yet what he's done with that number.
I haven't either, for sure.
But I'm fairly certain it's going to be close. I think Jazzberry is at a point now that it is edging itself up to being a very top competitor with the Super Tunia Vista bubblegum.
Yeah, I think it's on track to be more popular than the bubblegum, which the bubblegum's a great plant. It's very vigorous, so if you
everybody knows it.
Everybody knows it. I mean, it's great because if you have a little area or an area that's bigger and you only want a few plants, you can plant just a few. And by summer, it'll fill that area in. Because
bubblegum, one plant can get about 24 or so inches tall, but over 36 inches wide if you're
Yes.
fertilizing it and watering it regularly.
Where
So-
jazzberry doesn't quite have that vigor, but it's
Right.
it still fills in
Oh,
really
yeah, it
nice
does a
over
nice
the
job,
summer. So
yeah. Well, so I think this is a good place to stop for today. We've gone through about half of the beds that we had looked at this morning. So we'll be doing a follow-up video with the rest of them, which is going to include a lot of beds, not only with annuals, but with perennials as well. So we had some really fantastic garden beds this year with perennials we're going to be talking about. If you have any questions or comments on any of these garden areas that we talked about today, please feel free to leave it in the comments below. If you're new to our channel, we welcome you to subscribe. So just be, we're giving you a heads up here. If you do subscribe, we will be putting out another video probably in the next week or so with the rest of the garden areas that we did this year. Thanks for watching. I'm Heidi.
And I'm Ben.
From Garden Crossings.